heard a question that I loved and it really stuck with me. It's, do you know your cost per enrollment? I like it because I work with charter school administrators daily and none of them actually know this. These same administrators throw thousands of dollars a year at marketing, but they don't know one, what their return is, and two, if what they're doing is even effective. Out of this world. I wish we lived in a world where you could throw $10,000 at a wall and meet your enrollment goals. But in reality, it simply doesn't work that way. Charter Connect is a breakthrough company that tells you down to the penny what your cost per enrollment is. So you know exactly how to reach your goals. And man, can I say that they are good. For example, we just met with a school out in California last week and realized that their website traffic has quadrupled since using Charter Connect. Really? It's a no-brainer. The best part is if you send them your info on the website, charterconnect.co, with the promo code connection in the description, you will get 10% off your first month. Tell them Jenna sent you. The Charter School Connection podcast would like to thank our sponsor, Packed Class, an enrollment and lottery process platform built for charter schools by charter schools to save money while making money. Good morning. Welcome to the Charter School Connection podcast. I am your host, Jenna Dubois, and today I am here with Miss Miadora Nelson, the principal of Coral Academy of Science of Las Vegas at Nellis Air Force Base. How are you today, Miss Nelson?
Hi, good morning. I'm doing great.
How did you get into the education industry and charter schools specifically?
Yeah, no, that's a fantastic question. I've always been really passionate about education, especially working with at-risk students. I've been an educator for 20 years, but I've only been in charter schools for the last 3 years. Previous to that, I was in our local school district. And as an administrator, I just became really frustrated. Our school district is failing and is so overwhelmed with bureaucracy, and it was really causing extreme barriers to creating real academic change for kids. So I wanted something different. And I chose Coral Academy of Science because it is a nonprofit charter schools. Most charter schools are for-profit, and I believe that in the mission of the STEM program. And I came over to Coral Academy of Science, and I've been so happy here at Coral Academy on Nellis Air Force Base.
That's amazing. And being new to the Las Vegas area, I was afraid to put my kids in the local school district. Mm-hmm. And I was looking at charter schools, and the STEM background of Coral Academy I fell in love with. So I totally I totally feel you on why you chose to go to the Coral Academy. How is their nonprofit different than a lot of the other charter schools?
Yes. So being nonprofit means that we're not paying for an overarching corporation to provide centralized services. We provide all of our services within our Coral Academy network, and all of the taxpayer dollars go back into the school. So nothing is funneled to another corporation, which I think is really amazing. If you look at the operating costs of Coral Academy compared to our local school district, we are only at about 10 to 15% goes to operating costs, whereas then the remaining 90% goes straight back to kids and teachers and supporting the academics of students. Whereas the Clark County School District, it is about 50% of their operating costs goes to central office.
Wow. How many Coral Academy locations are there?
There are 7 Coral Academy locations. Ours is the only Coral Academy on an Air Force base. In the entire United States, there's only 9 charter schools on military bases.
Oh, wow. How does that affect your student population? Are they all military students? Do you have non-military?
Yeah. So our population here on Nellis Air Force Base is really unique. So we're about 90% military-connected students. With the enrollment lottery system, they do get priority weighted lottery. Military connected students do. Military connected students living on base get the highest level of priority. But we are a public school. We do receive public funds, so we are open to all the public. So anybody is welcome to apply to our school. And so that's why we do have about 10% non-military connected students going to our campus.
Wow, that's really interesting. But that's really cool that you get a mix of both. Do you know anything about the other charter schools on other bases?
I don't know very much. I have connected with some of the other charter school principals. The charter school principal at the charter school at Washington, D.C., the base there. Charter schools, so a lot of misconceptions that our military connected community have about the charter schools on bases is they think that we are a Department of Defense school, a DoDEA school, which that is actually connected and run by the Department of Defense and the military. But because we are a public charter school, we're actually run by the Department of Education in the state of Nevada. And so we're a separate entity on the base, but we're not a military affiliated entity on base. So it's a little bit different operating. We also get different funding based on that. We get our Nevada per pupil allocation, whereas DoDEA schools, I recently learned, so Nevada gives just over $9,000 per pupil. DoDEA schools receive about $25,000 per pupil.
Oh, wow.
For their operating costs.
Interesting. Was that a Nellis decision to make it a public charter school versus a DoDEA school?
So DoDEA schools tend to be where there's not a local education agency.
Okay.
So basically a public school district. And for our campus specifically, the school on base did used to be run by Clark County School District, the local education agency, but there was a falling out, and Clark County School District no longer wanted to support the school on base and update the facilities. The facilities were over 50 years old, were falling apart, and the school district did not want to update it. It was having water main leaks, gas main leaks. School was chronically having to be closed because the facility was in disrepair. So then they put it out to bid for charter schools. And that was how Coral Academy, they were the ones who won that bid with Nellis Air Force Base to take over the school.
That's awesome. That's really awesome. That's so interesting to see how it has changed from public school to now a charter school. Mm-hmm. And how long has Coral Academy been on Nellis?
Since 2016.
Okay.
So 2016, they took over the old building, and they immediately started working on this new building because that building was in such disrepair. This building was actually slated to open March 13th of 2020, but then COVID. So the school is actually not in use for the first year. So right now, this school is about 4 years old. That's been in use.
Yeah, it's a really nice school. How many kids attend this campus?
We have just over 900 students.
Oh, wow. And what grades are in this campus?
Pre-K through 8th grade.
Okay.
So we are actually only one of 2 charter schools in Las Vegas to have pre-K.
Oh, wow.
Only us and Miadora Academy have pre-K programs, and we're the only Coral Academy that has pre-K. What's interesting about our pre-K, it is Nevada Ready grant funded, and you have to be 200% above the poverty line to qualify for this program.
Oh, wow.
And I know I've had conversations with the commanders on base, and they're worried that the program might fill up with too many non-military connected people. But I actually looked at the data. We're 100% military connected within our pre-K. And anyone who's E4 and below with a family of 4 qualifies.
That's awesome.
As 200% above the poverty line. So I think I know just talking to our community, some frustrations, I think, with pay.
Yes, for sure. It's nice that they have this charter school option, though, when there's so many issues with pay and funding, but they can still get a good quality education. Yeah. And it's still free public tuition. Yes. I think that's huge for a lot of people here, especially just cost of living is so high, and you all want your kids to have a good education.
Yeah. Well, and like you mentioned, when you first came here, you were really worried about the quality of the schools. The quality of the schools surrounding the Air Force Base are very concerning. Last year, their chronic absenteeism for the schools that they're zoned for, if they don't get into our program, 60 and 50% chronic absenteeism.
That's crazy.
And then less than 20% proficiency.
Oh, wow.
And it's really scary for parents, and I've heard some really scary stories about things that are happening at those schools.
Yeah, that's terrifying, especially as a parent with elementary age kids. Yeah. You want them to have a good education.
We do, but that creates some other issues for us. If they don't get into our program, a lot of them are choosing to homeschool. And so Nellis Air Force Base is what's called an EFMP base, so an Exceptional Family Member Program base, and there's only a handful of those in the world.
Oh, wow.
So that means families who have students with specific special needs, and that could be physical needs, it could be if they have extreme disabilities, they can only be stationed at the certain bases where they are consolidating those services. That causes us to have a larger population of special needs students than is statistically normal. Typically in a regular school, it's about 10 to 13% of students with special needs. In charter schools, it's less than 10% typically for special needs. For us, we're almost 20%.
Oh, wow.
Special needs students. And so we just have a huge population. And what this causes, when families come to be stationed on base, they are concerned about putting their kids in the local school district schools. And so then they homeschool them, but they don't really have the capacity to homeschool. And so then we have kids who may have been homeschooled for 6 months waiting on the list, and they may have needed some serious special education wraparound services. So then they come here, and then it's really traumatic on our community, having to, like, you know, work on repairing the academic gaps, the behavioral needs, the social, emotional needs that they might have.
Yeah, that's a lot to, especially when you have so many kids in a class, and then you have all these different needs that you're trying to meet. Do you have a special education program built in to help with that?
Since I've been here in the last 3 years, we've really been working on building up our special education program. I will say, in all of my years in education, I believe we have the best special education program that I've ever been at. We have fantastic staff who are really committed to serving special needs students. I know that it is something, though, that we still need to grow as we continue to increase the number of students that we've had since I've been here in the last 3 years. Our population of students needing extensive services and in a self-contained program has more than doubled.
Oh, wow.
And so that takes more resources. And about 25% of our staff are just special needs staff, whether that's teachers or aides, other service providers. And so each year, as I've been here, we're continuing to add more. For us right now, with our limited space, special needs also take space that the general ed population doesn't necessarily need.
Right. Do you think your special education section has grown so big because the fact that you're on an EFMP base and people live on base and they know you have the services, so they're drawn to you, and you just are kind of attracting that crowd? Do you think that's why, or is it just situational? That's just the way the world is today?
I definitely think it's because we're on an EFMP base. I also think that it's because we've been improving our special education program, and parents are bringing their kids here because we have been working so diligently on improving our special education program. But if all of these students with special needs are being consolidated here, then that's obviously going to make us have a higher number of special needs students.
For sure. For parents that want to look at this location for the special education, because it is a lottery system, are they just luck of the draw? If they get in the lottery, they're just more of applying because it is lottery based?
Yeah, it is lottery based. So then, if they have an IEP or not doesn't play into the lottery at all. The way the weighted lottery is, it's basically, you know, you get more chances to get in depending on what criteria that you have, if you have any of the weighted lottery components. I know that we also do have, even if an FRL student, they also get extra, tickets in the drawing.
Yeah. Oh, okay. That's so interesting. I know just from my own experience how stressful it was as a parent trying to get into charter schools. I think I applied to so many. Do a lot of your parents, they do that, apply to all the different locations and just whichever they can get in?
Yes, they do, and then kind of just hold out to wait till they get into the one that they want to get in. For here on Nellis Air Force Base, because it is a military community, we do have a high transiency rate, so about a 30% transiency rate. Just because of the nature of the military, families do PCS, typically 3 years. And so we have about almost a complete turnover every 3 years. And that is hard. It's hard on kids, too. And I know I mentioned chronic absenteeism earlier in parents homeschooling. A lot of these factors really play into the military child's educational picture. And what parents don't always take into consideration, all of these pieces, really impact a child. So they PCS. So typically students can miss anywhere from 1 to 3 months of school when they PCS, depending on where they PCS to. And then if they come to a school and they're not having good attendance, that hurts more. For sure. It definitely hurts more. Last year, our chronic absenteeism was 20%.
Oh, wow.
So we worked really hard on educating our community, and we decreased this year. Our chronic absenteeism is 13%.
That's a huge decrease. My kids, we PCS'd here April 1st, and they didn't start school
until the next year.
Until this year, because we were in England, and I didn't want to put them in the local school for a month.
Yeah.
And we were number 300 something on the wait list, so we were definitely not going to get in charter school. So they had 6 months, and I noticed just from them how much of a struggle it's been getting back into school. A huge difference if kids miss that much school. So I can totally see how that would cause issues in school, especially with that high of a turnover rate and people PCSing any time of the year and coming in, and if you 6 months without school or routine, that's on kids these young, that makes a big difference in attention span at school and school behavior and everything.
It does. It impacts so much, and I just feel like it really impacts the military community in a unique way. And you're mentioning also like moving from England's educational system to the United States. That's another barrier that kids have to face. They might be coming from a completely different level of standards, and then they come in and they have academic gaps because of that. So then they have gaps from the missed school. They have gaps from coming from a different educational system. And then you have to add in the social emotional impact of leaving their home, coming to a completely new place. And some of our students have serious anxiety, and that hurts attendance too. They don't want to go to school if they're struggling to make friends, or if they're missing their old school, missing their old friends. And then it just kind of can build.
Yeah, for sure.
And some of our kids really do struggle.
That speaks to my heart, because that's totally what we've been going through. And we loved our school over there, and it was great, and they're ahead in some things, but they're definitely behind in other things that they've homework, they didn't do homework over there, so that's been a struggle and a major mental struggle about coming to school. And they're like, I don't want to go to school because I have homework. So for those kids that do struggle, do you have are there any kind of counselors or anything that you offer for the kids that are really struggling with that? Because it is such a missed opportunity with all these kids. Yes, these military kids are resilient, at least coming from my own experience. They are resilient, but they still have emotions, and it's still a struggle. And it's hard, especially as they get older, and they understand, I'm leaving all my friends, I can't see my friends, and it's hard, especially coming into a new school.
We do actually have a lot of social emotional supports that we are not only have built in, but are continuing to build especially for the students, because you see it as they grow and get older. When they're younger, it doesn't seem to impact as much, but the older they get, the more and more they can seem to pull away. So we really work hard to create one, just like a family community. During our morning drop off, everybody's outside, everybody's on duty, everybody's out there greeting kids and making them feel safe. This year we started Music Mondays, and just to be instead of Music Fridays, yay, we're ending the week, we were doing Music Mondays to be yay, we're starting the week, we're all here together, doing little things like that. But we also have, the military base has provided us with an MFLAC, a military family life counselor. So we have our own military family life counselor just for us that services students.
That's awesome.
He has, as of the other day, over 160 kids on his caseload. We also have 2 counselors, so 2 school counselors in addition to that. One services lower elementary, one services upper elementary and middle school. We have also a student success advocate, and she facilitates sort of our tier 1 MTSS systems, our social emotional systems. We also, this year, we're lucky we got a grant. Our school liaison got us a grant from the Department of Defense for Anchored for Life program, which is, it's only for Dodea schools. So we were lucky enough. We're the first charter school to get the Anchored for Life program. It's a peer mentoring program, which is really amazing. It's for elementary and middle school. So we have 2 separate programs running. And so we had to select some of our lead students. So every classroom has a lead student. And then we had our leaders of the lead students, and their role is every month they need to do service projects to support the school. They need to facilitate peer counseling groups, kind of they call it real talk, and they do peer groups, just kind of talking about things like, hey, what's going on? Are you going through a deployment? Are you, what's, and just having that facilitate through peers. And then they also do character development work each month. So they they've done different things, like they've created videos about like respect or responsibility, and they're so cute. We put them out to the community and we show them with the kids. They've done like bombing the school with motivational quotes.
I love that. So, that's awesome. I love that. Sounds amazing.
It's been really cool to add that layer onto our program and what we're doing. But we've also provided a lot of training to our staff on the importance of social emotional learning, how important it is to just take that 10 minutes a day to connect with your students, whether you do 10 minutes of meditation or cool down, or even just a check-in with the class and see how they're doing, and if you're noticing something that's not right, and then alerting the appropriate mental health staff to see if they can provide supports for that student. But then also helping teachers to understand how trauma impacts the brain and how that can impact learning, and what we can do to make a difference in kids. What I did not realize when I first came here, and I am a former military spouse. My husband was in the Navy, but my kids were really little when he got out. So I didn't experience a school-age child being a military wife. But when I first came here, I've always worked in Tier 1, Title I schools with severe behaviors, and I came here and I noticed very similar behaviors to some of the most extreme schools that I've been in. And the more I've learned about how trauma impacts the brain, the type of trauma that kids go through being a military child is equivalent to a parent being incarcerated, equivalent to a divorce, that separation from deployment, TDY, and then all of the mental health struggles that puts on the family as well. Yeah, definitely. It really impacts kids in a big way.
Yeah, for sure, because I can see how that would cause some major trauma in the kids. Are this grant and all these different things, are these things that you've brought into the school, or is it just kind of facilitated over time?
That's a great question, because we actually have been so lucky to this year we have a ton of grants that are kind of in place, and it's been kind of a community effort. So Anchored for Life, that was something I coordinated and worked with the school liaison, so she actually really did the work in getting that to our school. But I know we also just received a PSMI grant, Public Schools on Military Installations grant. So we are actually going to be able to expand our campus so we can bring in more military community.
Nice. That's awesome.
And pull some of the kids off the waiting list.
That's awesome. And what's the timeline on that?
We just got our architect approved, and we are going to be moving forward with the planning phase very, very soon.
That's so exciting. Congratulations. That's awesome.
Thank you. It's a $71 million grant.
Oh, wow. That's amazing.
And that's something that my previous administration that was here, and central office had been working on for 3 years.
Oh, wow.
So that's something that's been in the works for quite a while, but it will be huge for our community and huge for our campus. It sounds
like it. And it sounds like you're doing so many good things, and there's so many good, not just the education, but so many outside support. Or not, I guess it's still in school, but additional support along with education. That seems so great for these kids that have with all these different things that they've got experience. I love that. How do you teach your staff about the trauma? Do you have like teacher workshops? How do you bring all that training in?
Yeah, we do. So we've been really creative with our time and really looking for resources, because there are a lot of resources out there. You just have to be willing to figure out how to use them and how to apply them. So I know that last year what we decided to do, so we took our staff meeting time, and then we banked it. We do an early release for staff on Friday, so we can do a longer staff meeting in the middle of the week. And we don't do a typical staff meeting. We do differentiated trainings throughout the entire school community, depending on what the needs are at that time. And so me and my leadership team, we collaborate every Friday, and we kind of focus on what are we going to do right now? What do we need right now? So, for example, next week we have about 110 staff members, and so we have, I think, 10 different training sessions that are going to go on next week based on where each grade is and what they need. So for middle school, they're going to be doing math. Some of the middle school teachers are going to be doing a math enrichment training. Some teachers are going to be doing a DRC and SBAC preparation training. Some of our teachers are going to be doing how to do behavior intervention plans. So we really look at where each grade level is and what do they need, and try to target it based on that. But for social emotional, so the beginning of the year, we spent quite a bit of time doing so much of that social emotional work, but that's something we're not going to stop. It's something that we do kind of have to keep hitting to build the capacity up within our teachers. We actually also have about 12 teachers right now who are participating in the they're in the SID program. It's it's a social emotional endorsement program that they're working on. So they're kind of leading those teacher efforts.
That's awesome.
Right now, and they bring a lot of that information in and provide that training.
That's awesome.
To staff.
It's like a big group effort. I love that. How do you how does finding the staff work? Are they locals? Are they military spouses? Military members? How? Yeah. Like, do you do the hiring? Is it Coral Academy? Do they just hire or is it like school campus specific? How does that work?
Yeah, it is campus specific. We have quite a mix of people here. It's been really interesting since I transitioned from the school district. We were kind of like in our little bubble, and coming to charter school, I realized, oh my gosh, there's like a whole world of educators that are completely outside of the school district. Here on our staff, we have quite a few members who did leave the school district to come to us. We have quite a few staff members who have come from private schools or other charter schools. We also have a lot of military spouses as well. Most of our military spouses, though, tend to be in support staff positions, but we do have a handful of military spouses that are teachers as well.
That's awesome.
So I know that the one thing, like just for staff, that I've worked really hard on is building that culture of commitment to supporting our students with an engaging, exciting, rigorous academic environment, but also supporting the whole child. And it's something that we always talk about a lot as a team, and like we're driving this bus together in the same direction. And every time I kind of feel like someone's maybe kind of drifting off that mission, just like rope everyone back in, like we are all together for all kids, and building that culture of commitment to excellence among the whole staff. And this is one of the best staffs I ever worked with, and this is a challenging population that we work with, and we try to like balance that in knowing that everyone's here because they're passionate about military kids and about supporting their exceptional needs that they have.
That's awesome. I love how the team effort and just making sure everybody's on the same page and being here for the kids. I know a lot of schools, especially like public schools, it's just a job. They don't care about the kids. They don't care. They're just there because they have to be. So I love that you are here for the kids and supporting the kids and helping the kids, not just educationally, but the full picture of these kids. How do you, I know it sounds like you have a great relationship with the kids. What about with their parents? Like, do you do a lot of things with the parents as well?
That is one of the things that we have struggled with in the time that I've been here, is having consistent parent engagement. So I know this year we're working on changing and rebranding. So we've struggled with maintaining a consistent PTO. And so this year we're rebranding to it to be a collaborative family group. And we're starting that. We have some of our grant money that we have invested into parent education, specifically tied around literacy, providing books for families, training on how to teach literacy skills at home. But it's really hard to get families to come for those academic engagement, and even just be willing to commit time on the long term. We have today we have our fall festival. We're going to have a huge turnout, and we always have a huge turnout for fun events like that. Right. But having things tied into academics, or having parents who are willing to commit to long-term support in the school, that is something that we have really struggled with. And that is one of our biggest growth areas, and how we can try and better engage our military families in supporting the school at a higher level. As far as if we ask parents to donate, bring anything, like they are on board. They will support their teachers and their classrooms and their kids, but supporting the whole school community, that is where we need to grow.
Yeah. Do you have any other ideas of how to do that? Or is it kind of a see what works and go from there?
We have done a lot of the typical things, pastries with the principals, having the PTO, soliciting, trying to get parents out. So this year we're working on trying some different things, trying to engage at different times, trying to engage virtually, and I think also like the rebranding of the PTO will make a big difference, because from some of our conversations with families, it seems like the PTO has like an exclusive like reputation, like that,
like it's cliquey almost.
Cliquey, yes. And so I think that turns away some parents. And so trying to do something that's more inclusive and collaborative. That was what, when we had those conversations with families, that was where we got a lot more buy-in, and talking about it just being collaborative and not that cliquey sort of organization, or where they felt like they it wasn't for them, or they weren't able to be included in that.
I think that's a great idea, especially with the high turnover, making sure that even if you're new, you can still join and participate, and it's not just this couple people. So I think that'll be huge for parents, and hopefully that will just kind of reinforce the whole community feel, and just keep building the whole community feel. What have been some of the hardest times you've had while working here, and especially coming in right after COVID?
I have to say, when I first came here, I felt like I fit. I felt like this was such a great place to be. I love working with the military connected community and working with these kids and the staff. I will say the largest challenge that I've had is trying to manage the increase of special needs students and making sure that we're supporting all of their needs, but then also supporting the teachers who are having larger capacities of special needs students that they haven't had in the past. And every year that I've been here, we have increased in our special ed numbers 1% to 2%. So that's been a huge challenge. And this year especially, it has been a huge challenge, because trying to service some students who have specifically like severe behavioral needs, and then supporting the teachers in their social emotional health, balancing that has been a challenge.
Yeah, that sounds like it would be a challenge. Have you been able to increase your special needs staff, not counteract, but like balance out how many students you've had, or are they starting to outnumber the staff that you have?
We definitely have added more positions this year. We're actually trying to hire right now. We currently need 3 special education aides, and we are also adding a BCBA, which is a board certified behavior interventionist, and so we're currently interviewing for that as well. So those are 3 additional positions that we just added on this year to support students. But it definitely feels like we're kind of chasing the tail, trying to constantly catch up, because they're just coming in, and we never know what we're going to get. So when we get new kids from the lottery, because we don't know if they have an IEP or not, sometimes it even happens like we put a kid in a classroom and the teacher's like, hey, I think something's going on with this child, and then we ask the parents and they never even gave us an IEP that they had. And some of these kids that we've put in general education classes have severe needs, and so that is a struggle.
Do you think parents don't tell you about the IEP just because they want to like see if they can get away from the IEP, or do people see an IEP as a negative?
I think it can be both. I think sometimes parents think, oh, maybe it was the school, and so then they put their kid in to see, oh, what's going to happen, and typically it's not the school. You know, if a child has been diagnosed with a learning disability and they have an IEP, the school had to go through a lot of work to get that put into place. And so it definitely, these things get noticed right away when it happens. But I think also, I think parents don't always say it when they do fill out the application, because they're worried about stigma. And I think they're also worried that it might hurt their chances of getting in the lottery. The thing is that is strictly regulated by law. We are a public school, and we can't turn anyone away. And we can't turn anyone away if they have an IEP. And we are legally obligated to provide those services as best as we can.
I guess that's a good thing for parents to know. Like, just be honest on the application, and it's better for your child for the school to know what they're getting, when instead of struggling with, because that's another added emotional trauma almost on the child if they're
no, absolutely, because it puts trauma all around, whether on the kid, the classroom teacher, the other students, depending on the needs of the child too, and kind of can set the classroom in chaos.
Definitely. It's so interesting. There's so many different levels that you just don't think about until you're like in the situation. It sounds like you're doing an amazing job supporting everybody and really being there for everybody emotionally, educationally, all different levels. I think it sounds like you have been doing so well with the school and making huge improvements. And can you tell, for the kids that you have, you noticed a difference in, like, are they happier? Can you tell a difference? Is it?
I do think that our kids do enjoy coming to school, and I do think that they feel safe here. I notice when we have a little bit of change, that it does kind of throw them off. So, for example, one of our assistant principals, she left and got promoted into the charter school authority, and we got a new assistant principal, and then we kind of moved the roles, and that was really hard for a lot of kids. Like for a while, I was getting questions. The kids were asking me, why am I leaving? And I'm like, I'm not leaving. I'm right here. I'm like, we just got a new assistant principal. But they were really shooken up about that, and asking lots of questions about why am I changing things, why, I couldn't believe how many times I was asked, why am I leaving, when I'm like, I'm right here, I'm not going anywhere. But just kind of like their thought process and how to transition with a huge role, because our administrators are incredibly active around the school, incredibly visible, so they're a big part of the kids' lives, and just things like that just can really shake them up.
Yeah, for sure. It's nice that they're comfortable enough to ask you, like, where, and to even notice. That shows how much the administration cares about the kids. I think that's amazing. Is there any major changes that you would like to see happen in the next 5 years, or are you happy with how things are going right now?
The major changes, well, one, the PSMI grant, expanding our campus, is really going to be huge. That's actually going to be the major focus of the next 2 years for us, is really planning strategically and making sure that we're building a campus to truly meet the needs of the special education population that we're seeing, but also providing the additional supports that we need that would impact our community. So we need a good sports facility for our kids. We have huge sports population here, providing better equipped science and STEM labs. So that right now is kind of the forefront in my mind, is that future planning and making sure that we're really using this money that we are receiving from the Department of Defense to make sure that we are going to provide a beautiful, effective campus to service all of our military connected kids.
So how big will that allow you to expand your school?
The goal right now is to go to 1,600 students.
Wow.
I'm still staying pre-K through 8th grade. I really do want to increase our pre-K program. That has one of our hugest wait lists, is our pre-K program. But definitely our middle school program. So our middle school program is 5-star this year. And we are the only 5-star school in this entire side of town, 5-star middle school in this side of town. And it's hard work, but we want to maintain that, and we want to continue to grow academically and
for sure
social emotionally. And I think the other thing I want to make sure that we're working on is all of our social emotional supports are really in place strongly at a high level.
Yeah, it sounds like you're doing amazing, and you've got a great timeline to look forward to in the future. Before we end the day, is there any last remarks or things that you would like to share?
I would say my biggest frustration is with state-local politics and how they're not funding charter schools equitably as they are with the Clark County School District and Washoe County School, all the other school districts in Nevada. And I think that it's bad politics, and that, to me, I have spoken with my legislators about this. They use a lot of they spread a lot of misinformation about charter schools, and I don't think that that's right. They're taking away money from kids and schools that are being effective and funneling it to ineffective school districts. What
do you think the reason is to try to push people away from charter schools is behind that?
I think it's the competition between the school district. I think the school district, instead of partnering with charter schools and talking about how can we work together to make this system the best for all kids, it's a competition, that they feel like we're in competition, and they are trying to hurt us by playing politics and funneling money away from charter schools. And all it does is hurt kids. These are public school students. And the other thing that is frustrating is the spreading of the misinformation about charter schools.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, all you're doing is hurting the kids. It's just because it doesn't need to be a competition. It should be supporting everybody and helping everybody to get the best possible life and education that you can for these kids. It's all about the kids, and so I think I agree with you. I think that's a huge deal for these kids, and hopefully things will start to change with that, and things will start to improve for charter schools and just education in general, especially in an area where it's not necessarily known for education.
Exactly. So anyone out there who's a charter school supporter should talk to their legislature for equitable funding.
That's perfect. And then do you have any books or anything that you would recommend for educators, for parents, for students, for teachers, just any impactful books that you've read?
That is a really tough question. My goodness, yes, we talk about books all the time. I think maybe the biggest thing that I would say is reading on how trauma does affect the brain. So one of the books I really like is Culturally Responsive Teaching and the Brain. And just really thinking about how all things that are going on within society, how these stressors that kids go through all the time really do impact our kids. And it comes into the classroom. Social emotional learning has been going on for a long time, but it really became big in the educational world, and the conversations really started happening after COVID. And there's been a lot of resistance from teachers about this. And why do we need to teach social emotional learning? We're here to teach reading. We're here to teach math. But you can't teach any of those things if children aren't in an emotional place to learn.
That's a really good point. I keep thinking of all these other questions. I feel like we could be here all day talking about so many things, but it's been great talking to you. And do you have any other last words of wisdom?
No, I think talk to your state legislature.
Perfect.
Well, keep working hard. Keep kids in the forefront of everything.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much. It was great talking to you.
Yeah, thank you.